Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I'm excited for a New England friend today to join the podcast. He is a real estate agent and business coach out of New England, and he's a badass. Justin Mandese, what's going on? How are you?
Well, what's up? Thank you for that intro. I like to be called a badass. That's good.
Good way to start the day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So for those that don't know you, tell me how you got into real estate.
Yeah, cool. So let's see. The short version of it, in 2009, I found myself with a newborn child, a brand new house, and a loss of my job in the corporate world. So I was like, oh, okay, this just happened. Now what?
Yeah.
And so I was a corporate marketing guy. I've got an MBA, the whole 9 yards. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to climb the corporate ladder forever.
Yeah.
Well, that came to a screeching halt. And so I was like, wow, I am not in control of my own destiny. And I'm stuck in this corporate world, which I really didn't like. I'm not a time clock guy. So I was like, okay, well, what else can I possibly do that can help me control my own destiny and help me use the skills that I have and manifest it into making money? So I looked at the real estate industry, and I'll be honest with you, I just looked at it. I was like, okay, well, my average competitor is like a 55-year-old part-time mom. I could probably do okay here. I liked making presentations. I liked marketing. I liked sales. I liked talking to people. So I'm like, all right, I can do this. And that's literally why I got my license and where I started. And I was dead broke, and I had all these expenses. My wife was a teacher making like 30K, and it was like, all right, I got to do this. I have to win. That's how I started.
Well, that was like 13 years ago. So
Yeah.
I guess it's turned out okay for you.
Still here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes, they say that like so many agents don't make it to their first renewal, right? Like 2 years in, but like the 87% failure rate within the first 5 years is a stat that you hear over and over and over again. And I feel like, I don't know if you feel this way at all ever, but often I'm like, every time a renewal comes, like, oh, made another 2 years. Oh, made another 2 years. I don't know if that's sometimes how you feel about real estate, about the business, but
Oh, absolutely. Listen, we say something like, oh, you wake up and play it every day. And at the end of the day, like, some people like that, some people don't. I feel that every single day. And imposter syndrome is so real, right? Like, I wake up and I'm like, well, today's the day my business is going to fall apart and I'm never going to sell anything again. And I'm going to have to go get a job. Like, it happens every day. And now it's funny because 13 years later, like, I go to some networking events and people are looking at me as like the success story, and they're looking up to me, and like, they're excited to meet me. And I'm like, oh, bro, I'm still the new kid on the block. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I've just survived for 13 years. That's it. So
yeah, I'd say there are a few systems and tools we'll probably unpack today. So those that are listening, don't freak out. Like, oh man, this guy knows nothing. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's just humble and modest. But with that, in that same kind of thought process, if I was a brand new agent and just got my license and I'm getting ready to hang at a brokerage, what advice would you give me as I'm starting out my career? Like, if you could do it all over again, what would you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing to concentrate on by far, and this is what every business coach will tell you, is generate conversations. I don't care if that's conversations within the people you know, so your sphere and your warm circle. For most people, that's the easiest place to start.
Yeah.
But also, you have to be generating new conversations with people you don't know. It's just a numbers game. The more people you physically talk to every single day, the odds of you getting to a transaction faster are incrementally higher. So that's number one. Number two is you have to really concentrate on what it is that makes you unique. What's your differentiating factor, right? I'm sure every state we can talk about how crowded the realtor population is, right? In the state of Rhode Island, we have just under 1 million people, and we have like 8,000 licensed agents. It's insane. So when you look at those numbers, if you're going to compete in that pool and you're brand new, you better have a really good differentiating factor about yourself that you can sell. Otherwise, you're just going to blend into the sea of sameness like everybody else.
I was just Googling numbers because I know in Houston we have like 50,000 agents or so, so I was like, I wonder if like the ratios are the same of like realtors to people in, different markets across the country. So if you're listening to this, shoot me a DM and let me know how many realtors are in your MLS versus how many people are in your market area. I'm just curious and would like to keep that kind of.
Yeah. And don't throw up. Don't throw up when you look at the number because it's sickening.
No, I mean it's interesting, and it's something that we see across the country, right? Of like, if there's 8,000 agents in Rhode Island, right? I would say 800 are doing 5 or more transactions a year, and then probably 50 are doing, the bulk of transactions for the entire state.
So there's an
Ish.
agent. Yeah, there's an agent in my market that just posted a stat earlier this morning. There's 8 agents per listing in the state of Rhode Island right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how ridiculous is that? And like you said, it's really still the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the agents are doing most of the business.
Yeah.
So when you look at that factor, 60 to 70% of agents are doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
So one thing that I think that's hard for agents to come up with, because we go through those different exercises as well of like, what value do you bring? What's your unique value proposition? What value do you have? And when I'm a brand new agent, I think that's something that's difficult to articulate, right? Because it's like, I've never sold a home. Perhaps I've never bought a home personally, like depending on your age or, financial situation. And so, I think a lot of people get in their heads of like, oh, well, who am I to show, this client how to buy a house, right? So how do you help agents, potentially newer agents or younger agents, kind of come up with that value prop when they don't necessarily have the confidence or are recently, licensed?
So it starts with identifying what their strengths and weaknesses are, and understanding where their passions lie as well. If they're very passionate about a particular cause or a particular thing in their life, that's usually a great place to start, right? What's their mission? What's behind all this? What's their why?
Yeah.
So that's critically important to identify. And then when you're talking about strengths and weaknesses, what is it they're good at? I looked at it when I got into the business and said, I'm good at marketing and I'm good at belly to belly sales with people. I get people to trust me and know me and like me.
Yeah.
So I knew that I could succeed in an industry where that was prevalent. So it comes with that. But then you also have to position yourself and say, well, if I'm really good at this and I'm so uniquely positioned to do that, well, then how do I explain that to people?
Mm-hmm.
How do I put that into a message? And if you have a unified marketing message, then it reaches people on a way deeper level than if you're just spinning out left and right, looking for deals here and there, and you don't really know what it is that you're offering. You're just another agent in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so many times when I talk to a new agent, they give me the token things that people want to hear, right? Oh, well, I'm trustworthy and people like me and I want to help, right?
Yeah.
That's great. If that's not your entry level into sales, you're screwed. So, but you got to take it deeper than that. You have to identify what it is that you uniquely do, or you have to have a unique offering proposition, something that you offer that nobody else does in the marketplace, and be able to sell that. So it's one of those two things that has to happen. But unless you're really starting with what am I good at and what am I passionate about,
Yeah.
it's just, you're just spitting in the wind.
Well, and I think the baseline, spitting in the wind, that's interesting. Haven't heard that phrase before. But I think there's like that baseline, right? So you've got to be like, how are you going to go above the average, right? Because everyone should be trustworthy and friendly and those things, right? So how can you go above and beyond over what, kind of everyone else is doing? I like that. I had another question and it literally just, I was like, before you finished your thought, I had it. And then you finished your thought and then I commented on it and then I lost my thought. So we're just going to switch gears. I know that you've been in the business for a while, right? And how has your business evolved over the years in like from a marketing standpoint, right? And so, I'm sure you follow this and then preach this to clients as well. Like you always want to have multiple lead pillars, right?
Sure,
2, 3,
absolutely.
4, 5 places where you get a decent amount of business, not the like, I made one call to a FISBO and I got that. So now it's a pillar, right? Like where you're getting 10 to 20% of your business. And so how has your business changed from that aspect over the years, being 10 plus years
Absolutely.
in?
Great question. So it really goes back to my beginning in real estate where I was dead broke and I was like super transactional based. I would chase a deal until it was like absolutely dead because I needed money. And I
Yeah.
would go all over the place. So I'm located in Rhode Island centrally, but I'm also licensed in Mass and Connecticut. And, our markets are pretty intermingled because we're so close.
Yeah.
But I would chase the deals, it didn't matter where it was. If I thought I had a chance to close it, I would go after it. So being so transactional in the beginning, I was just like starting every conversation and hoping it led to a deal. And I wasn't paying enough attention to relationship building right off the very start. It naturally happened with a lot of my clients because that's just who I am. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
that relational builder. But I was so transactional, just chasing every single deal. So, like in the beginning, I really bought into online lead generation early in the days,
Okay.
right? So, like Zillow, Realtor, and I was looking at that platform to just generate conversations for me. That's
Yeah.
all I needed it to do. And just a little aside. So, when I started in real estate, I also moved to the state of Rhode Island at the same exact time. It's where my wife was from. I knew two people in the state of Rhode Island, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. That was it.
Yeah.
So I was like super guerrilla. Like I just needed conversations.
Well, and so, okay, so you bought the online leads. What were some other things that you did, or what would you have done differently to build more relationships? Because I know what we coach people on when they move to Texas, or they're new to Houston, or they just moved back, right? But like,
Yep.
what did you do that worked well, or what do you wish you would have done differently to build more relationships with people outside of like the online lead, game?
So I am a relationship person. I'm a relational person. So I need that cultural aspect of it as well. So
Hmm.
I was joining sports organizations. I was networking. I was, joining networking groups. I mean, everything you could possibly do to get more conversations and get more FaceTime with people, I was doing at the same time of obviously doing the online lead generation to get me more real estate transactional type conversations going. And, let's admit it, back in the day, that's when those online leads were actually really good, right? Like there was way less agents involved. The Zillow was a newer thing. They started selling off. My second lead that I ever got was for like a $5 million house. It was ridiculous. And there was no way I could have started that conversation if it had not been for the online lead generation.
Yeah.
So I really went with that. But the networking piece and the relationship building piece is what carried me forward into my career now,
Yeah.
right? And so for the first 5 years of my career, I was very transactional. And I used to boast. This was like crazy. We were very successful. So I hooked up with a business partner very early into the game, and we were just good because we're very different from each other. I'm very
Okay.
networking and relationship based. He was very like tactical, strategic, and organized.
It's interesting that you say that you're very like, focused on relationships and things like that. And I totally get like back against the wall. You're just like, I need to sell as many houses as possible. But like, then for you to be like, and I was just so transactional. I feel like those are such contradictory statements.
Absolutely. It went against everything I was, right?
Yeah.
It was very unnatural to me. I didn't
Yeah.
like it, but it definitely helped me build my database, which essentially is the name of the game, right? Every
For
name
sure.
added to our database becomes a potential tree for business. So we just kept saying, we need to fill our database. We need to fill our database. And both my business partner and I knew nobody in Rhode Island. So it was like we were in the same boat
You
at the
didn't
same
even
time.
you didn't even partner up with the guy that's been there for
No,
30 years. It
nope.
was, you're like,
He was a Navy transplant. It had only been in the game a year before I was in Rhode
okay.
Island. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
So we were super transactional together. And when I say this is like the funny part. So fast forward like 6 years into business, we had built a team. We had 21 agents on our team. We were the number one Remax team in New England. We were ranked 99th in the country for Remax. I mean, we were like a big deal, right? Had all the things, the $1 million GCI, all this type of stuff. But we would get on stage at some of these events that they'd put us on, and I would
Yeah.
literally brag to people about how transactional I was and how relationship building was an afterthought, and I didn't need to market to my database. I was such a cocky jerk that I was just like, this is it. This is what I do. And then it was really only like a year or two later where I started seeing some clients transact from previous clients transact without me with
Yeah.
other agents. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, oh my goodness. Yes, they're loyal to my standards. Yes, they had a good experience with me, but because I'm not keeping the relationship with them, which is what I do,
Yeah.
I'm losing those opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's when I had that aha moment and I said, this is crazy. I cannot continue to be transactional for the rest of my career. Otherwise, I'm just going to be chasing forever. I need to become a magnet. I need to become the attractor. I need to be working with people that are already warm to me and want to give me business instead of this nonsensical, like chasing business all the time.
And so, fast forwarding to now, what are some things that you do to stay in relationship and in contact with those past clients?
So I really want to be a friend, right? Like that's my end game goal because that's how I work. So whether that's, you know, dropping off a baby gift, hey, congratulations, you guys just had a baby, so excited for you, right? And it's got to come from a genuine place too. I'm not just doing it to chase business, but
Yeah,
being that person that stays involved in someone's life. And social media makes it so easy.
for
It
sure.
really does, right? Just being that person, being someone that's always commenting on their stuff, being someone that's there for them, being that being a knowledge broker when it comes to real estate. But I'm not always pushing that. It's just
Yeah.
being involved in someone's life. That really is what helps me build relationships, and then obviously adding value to the situation when something is needed or I'm called upon, if you will,
Yeah.
being able to add the value, being able to have the unique proposition for them, and then just carrying that forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that social media definitely makes it a lot easier to stay in contact, right? And
For sure.
then one thing that I always find funny, today I don't work with as many buyers as I did, 3, 4 years ago, but um you're in contact with clients so frequently throughout the transaction and then it ends and it's kind of like, well, we're not going to be talking every day, so
Yeah.
the staying in contact via social is very helpful with that.
There's not an agent in this business that hasn't felt like it's a breakup with a client, right? Good or
Yeah,
bad, right? There's ones where you're like, thank God I never have to talk to this person again. But
for
then
sure.
there's ones that it's just like, oh man, like we're not going to be texting every single night now anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But if you just keep that relationship by shooting them a text a few months later, hey, miss our conversations, LOL, right?
Yeah.
That's all it takes to keep it going and keep top of mind and keep the relationship intact.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a specific cadence of communication that you shoot for as far as a minimum level of communication with past clients?
I don't. I mean, really, it's case by case, right? There's people that I still keep in contact with, and I'll text, "Hey, was thinking of you, saw this thing out here, whatever." And then there's agents where I mean, agents. There's clients I talk to that really once a year,
Yeah.
and it's just a random, "Hey, what's up?" That's really all it takes. It depends on who you're dealing with for sure. Some people are also more relational and need more touches, and there's other people that that don't necessarily need it. But as long as you're staying in front of them, and that's part of the social media game too. You're staying in front of them, showing them
Yeah.
continuously that what you're doing, what you're building, and I've also been kind of blessed. So for the last few years, my business has actually started to move into the luxury space. So I've had the ability to post some incredible things on my social media, some beautiful videos, super expensive houses, all that stuff. And that's drawn a lot of natural interest from my sphere and from my database. So it's a great excuse for me to re-engage with them when they leave a comment or something. And it really prompted me to stay in the game with them. But even that's dangerous because some people, I actually got the question the other day, like, hey, do you still want to sell my condo? Right? Because you're doing this multi-million dollar stuff, and it's like, yes, I'm still here for you. Like you're still getting the same treatment. Don't worry.
Yeah. I saw, I think, a house that you sold on like waterfront, Rhode Island, something that was pretty sick.
Yeah.
If
So we
that's
just we just closed on it. It was a new construction house, 5.5 million, and second largest sale in Rhode Island year to date. So that's super huge. But like that was a developer that I chased for a year.
yeah,
And I beat out some of the other top agents, the top luxury agents in the space. And again, it really came with a unique selling proposition. And I can tell you exactly what happened. Um, so I was literally finalist with the top luxury agent in Newport with the luxury brand and all the
Hmm.
things. And then there's little old me at this little old brokerage that he had never heard of. Most people in Rhode Island had never heard of. And it was like, well, what's your proposition?
Yeah.
So he just had started to finish out the house with the design work, the tile work, things like that. And the first round of that work, I went through the house and I noticed, I was like, this stuff is cheap. This is not gonna, you can't sell a $5 million, $6 million house with this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I had a very honest conversation with the developer and I said, hey, look, I think you're going to struggle here with the finish work. I can see that maybe you need some design help. I've got an incredible designer in my portfolio here that can
Yeah.
come in and finish this job out. And if you trust me enough to take her advice, I'll tell you what, I'll make that design, I'll eat the design fee if you give me this job. And I'll have her work for you just as your own personal designer to finish out this job and get the money out of this house. He was so impressed that A, I had the gall to tell him that,
Yeah.
but B, that I was thinking outside the box enough and I cared enough that he got the job right, that he took me up on the offer, sold it in 20 days.
I think that's something that's tough. And I know that it's been a journey for me, and I'm sure people listening feel the same way. Like whether it's a luxury listing or it's just even a normal average price point house in your market, you go in and you're like, oh my God, all of this stuff needs to change, or they need to adjust the design, the finishes, aren't going to be, marketable. Um, you know, and it's difficult to have that conversation, or it's difficult to tell a seller that their property needs adjustments or updates or changes. Um, do you have any advice from that front of like, other than just like grow a pair, on like what to, like some tactical stuff maybe on like how to be in the right headspace or how to prep a client properly? You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, the first thing comes with I had nothing to lose, right? Like,
True.
what do I have to lose here? I can either take this listing and have it essentially be an overpriced, dump versus losing the listing that's going to be an overpriced dump to someone else.
Yeah.
Or I can go for it, show that I have a unique value that I can offer, and end up with a very marketable listing, which is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I was very stressed out for a long time about this,
Yeah.
right? And I put a lot of eggs into that basket. But I knew that this was going to be a career changer for me. And that's really why I went for it. And I got some really great advice when I first got into the real estate space 13 years ago. And as I mentioned, I was with Remax right in the beginning. And I went to a conference where there was a luxury, super high end luxury Remax agent from Canada giving a talk. And I asked him a question. I said, how do you stay so calm, cool, and collected when you're dealing with these houses in the millions, right? He was talking about like 3-4 million, which now is like three or
Canadian
four hundred
dollars though.
thousand.
So like,
Yeah. Right. Now it's 300,000 or 400,000, right? But he said, he goes, look, the process is the same, the people are the same. He said, if you're nervous about the extra zero, just take the zero off and deal with it like it was a $300,000 or $400,000 house. And I really tried to, I really tried to adapt that.
Yeah.
And like, okay, it's the same thing. He's got the same problem. He's a developer that needs to sell a house. Whether it's a $300,000 or $400,000 house, it's still the same thing. It's the same process. Sure, you might add a little pizzazz and market it a little differently, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So when you take that approach and you say, well, what do I have to lose? And it's really the same thing, it becomes a lot easier, right? I've had the ability now, I can tell someone selling a $300,000 or $400,000 house, hey, I'm confident I know what needs to get done.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. It's just got an extra zero on it. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. I feel a lot more comfortable now though, like telling a seller, the things that need to be done. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, or you can not do it. And then we'll be having this conversation in 14 days or 21 days when we're reducing the price because, the price and the quality don't equate. And so I think if you can confidently articulate, what needs to be done, it's going to make not only, your job easier, but the property's going to sell faster. And that's generally what most sellers want. So
Absolutely. And there's one thing that So one of the reasons why I enjoy being involved in coaching organizations, or the culture of a brokerage where we're always constantly interacting with people all over the country and all over North America, is that it opens your eyes to the fact that everyone else is doing the same exact thing, right? We
Yeah.
we tend as human beings to just minutely focus in on, like, well, what's happening in my town, in my neighborhood, like this problem. The world is so much bigger than that. There's agents right now facing way bigger problems and way bigger jerks than your person that you're about to go meet.
Yeah.
So don't get caught up in the hype that our brains create that's so small minded. Be open minded. Understand that this world is so big and there's so much opportunity, that this one particular opportunity in front of you, really, as important as we think it is, it's just a small piece of the long-term game.
For sure. How long have you been in coaching?
So I joined coaching in, let's see, probably I joined coaching about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And I was studying Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, other coaching bodies from the 80s. I mean, really old school stuff. So like I said, when I started, I was so new and so transactional that I wanted to absorb every script and dialogue I possibly could.
For
So
sure.
I was listening to all of it, and I was trying to develop my own, script. My first 5 listings were all expired because
Okay.
that's all I knew how to do, was just call, call, call. Now, this was also 2010 when it average days on market was like 300.
Yeah.
So there was listings to be had everywhere. There was no buyers.
Yeah.
A little different than today's market.
See, I picked them up and then you're like, oh shit, who
Yeah,
am I gonna sell these to? Huh.
right, exactly, right. And I sold them in 6 months, which like made my seller super happy because
Yeah.
that was like amazing.
Yeah.
But so I was absorbing all of those things, and then when I got into coaching, I realized that it was more than just scripts and dialogues. That you could actually solidify a business plan and come up with ways to keep yourself organized and stay consistent with your business building habits and your marketing pillars and all those things. So I was fascinated by it, and because my business partner and I were having such relative success, we were asked to become coaches. So I've been coaching now for about 5 years as a coach, and I maintain about 30 coaching clients at a time, from all over North America, which again is another reason why I love being a part of that type of program, because I'm so tapped into what's happening all over the place that it really keeps me current with trends and what's happening. So I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I like that too. Because it's like you're able to hear what's happening in other markets, and people also share, like what's working well for them, what's not working. And if you're like, oh, I was actually thinking about doing that, and you just said it bombed because of this, this, and this, but if I did it differently, then maybe, it'll be a success. So the collaborative mindset has always been something that I've enjoyed about coaching. Um,
Absolutely.
we kind of already asked and answered, but like if someone were on the fence about joining coaching, whether it's, with Tom Ferry or another organization, what advice would you give them on determining if it's the right move for them?
I mean, at the end of the day, finding a coach or a mentor is proven in any industry to be effective at helping you grow your business. So, regardless of what source it comes from, having someone that has been there and can help you either avoid potholes or find the fast forward button to get to where you want to be in a fundamentally sound way is extremely important.
Yeah.
I've coached agents that have been in the business for 10 or 15 years that have absolutely no foundation to their business.
Mm-hmm.
It's held together with glue and sticks. And when the market goes sideways or something happens, it all falls down. And they're like, how am I starting over again? I've been doing this for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
But if you're building a strong foundation from the start, then you can build a house on top of that, right? It's 101. So regardless of where the coaching comes from, you should be looking to surround yourself with people that have been there, done that, and can help you, see this, find the ropes before you have to go look for them by yourself.
Yeah. The shortening of the learning curve, I think, is one of the biggest things for me. Again, because it's like, when you have these ideas and you can tap into a community of collaborative individuals that can tell you like, I've done it, I haven't done it, this worked, this didn't work, whatever that may be. it's certainly helped us, speed up. And I mean, it's not to say we still don't make mistakes, but it's helped us to speed up the process.
Yeah, why recreate the wheel, man? It's out there,
For
right?
sure. For sure.
It's a proven way. Now, sure, you might find new ways of doing it, which is your differentiating factor. But at the end of the day, you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's out there. People have done it, and you just need to start learning from those people. And if you continuously seek out rooms of people that are quote unquote smarter than you because they're more advanced and they've done it before, that's what you want. You want to be around those people. If you surround yourself with people that are not motivated or unable to succeed or all those things, then guess what? You're going to play down to that field. So
yeah, definitely. All right. I've got one last question for you. Actually, I have two questions for you. One would be, as far as personal development goes and, either books, podcasts, things like that. Is there something that you recommend to real estate agents to like read or listen to or like check out?
100%. So one of my favorite books is The Four Disciplines of Execution. Four Disciplines of Execution by Stephen Covey. He, in this book, so I read this book once and I thought I had a good understanding of it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I got it. It helps me. So execution was one of my weak spots, right? I wanted to get better at being less of a creative thinker and more of get stuff done.
Okay.
So I read that book for myself. I read it. I took away the principles. I thought it was great. And then I had the opportunity to sit in a very small group presentation with Gino Blafari, who is the CEO of the Berkshire Hathaway family of real estate. And he gave a presentation and he talked about the principles of the Four Disciplines of Execution.
Mm-hmm.
But he showed me the practical ways in which he applies it to every single one of his businesses that he's ever run. It changed my perspective. It changed the game on this guy is actually applying these principles. Now I see how it's done. So I went back and reread the book and my mind was just blown. And now I've been able to adopt that. And for me, it's very simple, right? I'm a total ADD salesperson. So for me, I need to figure out on my daily what's most important, what needs to get done. And as long as I get those things done, I let the whirlwind or the distractions take me away. But as long as I get my stuff done. So for me, it's really just helped me focus in on a daily basis as to what are my most important tasks that need to get done today before I can let anything else take me away from it. And as long as I'm executing on those tasks on a daily basis, I will continuously grow. So that book to me has been a game changer in my career for sure. Couple other things that are other resources that have been important for me. So when I lost my job in 2009 and I was trying to find out where to go, I had enough money to go to a career coach for one session. And I went to that career coach and he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to help you with just one session of career coaching. But at the end of the day, here's my recommendation. Go read this book. And it was Strength Finder 2.0, which is what the Clifton Strength test is based on. That book changed my life because I realized why I was failing in the corporate world and why I wasn't moving forward. And it helped me identify what my strengths and weaknesses were. And I was able to adapt that into my new game of real estate. So that is a book that I highly recommend for people that might be starting out and don't really have that surety behind like what it is that I'm good at or why I'm doing this. So that's a strong one. And then the last one I'll mention is, there's a million, but the last one I'll mention is The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman.
Yep.
The alter ego effect, I just had a coaching client conversation this morning, and I really tapped a soft point with her where she felt like, I have an inability to trust people. I'm not good at building relationships. This is tough for me. And we went deep onto that. And I said, girl, you need to find what your alter ego is. You need to find out where that mode is, where you can have a hard shell, because it's not a personal attack against you. If you have a problem relating to someone, your alter ego is going to be just fine, right? And your primary ego is going to be just fine too, because it's protected. So having the alter ego effect, he talks about it in the book. Everyone knows Beyonce has her alter ego, which is Sasha Fierce. And she used that to overcome her stage fright. And it's a real thing. So I do recommend that book to a lot of people that have trouble kind of stepping into that game and having fear take over their everyday interactions.
I love that that's the example given. I appreciate
Sasha
that.
Fierce, man.
Yeah, yeah, you're hilarious. All right, so last question is, if it were your last meal on Earth, what would you be eating?
Wow. That's deep. I mean, there's so many things that I want to eat on that last
I know,
meal.
right?
um, I am a big pasta guy.
Okay.
So I want like the biggest plate of spaghetti and meatballs like you could possibly imagine. And I want it with cheese all over it and just all the things. I mean, I'd love to have a side of like ribs or something that I can mix
Interesting
in.
combo. Interesting combo. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am like, believe it or not, I'm half Cuban, which nobody would ever understand.
Okay.
But see, in the Cuban culture, you mix everything together on the plate. So I am a big like sharing person. If we go out to a Chinese food or something, I want everything. I want all the food.
Yeah.
I'm knocking stuff over. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, I
I want
know.
all. I want all the things. I want everything all on one plate. So if I
Yeah.
can, I'll eat spaghetti, ribs, Chinese food, just put it all together, and
Yeah.
that would be my happiest last meal ever.
You're hilarious. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you and your knowledge drop today, and obviously wish you nothing but the success in the future. What if someone wanted to connect with you, where is the best place for them to find you on social?
Yeah, so you can hit me up on Instagram. It's just J Mandese, and actually that's Facebook, Justin Mandese on Instagram. But love to connect with people. I know we didn't get to all of it today, but I coach people in just about every single aspect, and I'm a big sharer. Tom Ferry says something that I really subscribe to. It's I have a massive capacity for caring. So I care about people. I care about other agents' business. I care about obviously my clients and anybody that ever wants to connect and kind of idea share and mastermind. I love it. So hit me up.
Awesome. Well, again, very much appreciated and excited to see you again sometime soon.
For sure. Thanks, girl. Appreciate you.